When you're going to your $20 million vacation house in St. Bart's that you know was built partly off of exploiting 14-year-old girls feeling bad and delivering them a weight loss ad and thinking this is good, and in fact, I want to go out of my way to do a cover-up to keep getting that money. How do you do that? How do you go to that house?
You're just really excited about free speech. I'm Jon Favreau.
I'm Max Fisher.
Max, are you ready to land on the Meta Do Not Hire list? You weren't looking for a job there, were you?
If I was, I think this is going to be the week that finally once and for all ends.
Cross that off the bucket list. We originally had a special episode planned for you all today. Mm-hmm. Sarah Wynn-Williams, the former director of global public policy at Facebook, who recently published an explosive tell-all memoir about her experience at the company with the great title, Careless People.
Great title.
Was scheduled to sit down with Max and I to talk about the many serious allegations in her book, as well as the official whistleblower complaint she filed with the SEC. Mm-hmm. But late last week, Meta called an emergency arbitration hearing, arguing that by writing and promoting this book, Sarah had violated a non-disparagement clause in her severance agreement. Meta claims that they emailed her about the arbitration hearing, but she didn't show up, and the arbiter ruled in Meta's favor and prohibited Williams from further publishing, distributing, or promoting Careless People. So our interview with Sarah was canceled.
That was wild.
Her publisher, Flatiron Books, has no intention of halting the sale of the book.
Good for them.
And while we don't exactly know what's next for Sarah, I imagine she'll challenge this ruling in court, which she can do.
Right.
And hopefully she can get to resume promoting the book, in which case we will have her on. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, we figured we'd do what Sarah can't do currently and talk about the experiences and allegations she wrote about. But before we get to all that, let's start talking about Meta's attempts to silence Sarah, which are wild.
I know.
Can you recall another attempt by a tech company or any company to silence an employee as blatantly and publicly as this one?
This feels totally unprecedented to me because it's not just silencing her. They are trying to suppress this book. I mean, part of the arbitration ruling says that she has to, with all means within her power, stop distribution of the book, which is not within her power. So it effectively has not pulled it off the shelves. But they are really going all out in a way that I have never seen before. And companies don't usually do this kind of thing, even if they're really, really mad about a book, because it looks terrible.
Yeah.
It looks really bad. And it really tells you something that they are willing to say we are going to take the incredible PR hit and the major PR risk to try to suppress an entire book because there's like some level of vindictiveness from the executives who are implicated very, very heavily in this book, or they're just absolutely terrified by the allegations in it. But whatever the motivation, it's not working.
It is absolutely hilarious that this all comes just a few weeks after Mark Zuckerberg announced that they're going back to their free speech roots.
I know. It's like we all knew it was bullshit, but Mark Zuckerberg just believes in free speech. He's just a chill guy who wants to go by Rogan and hang out and suppress the publication of books that he doesn't like. And their legal strategy, I think this is important for people to know, publicly in their PR statements, they're saying, the book is all false or it's already known, which are two contradictory claims, by the way. But legally, if you actually read the arbitration, they just claim that she is not allowed to disparage them because of her non-disparagement agreement when she left the company, and they are also being very transparent about this. They're saying, yeah, that's right. We fired her because she complained about Joel Kaplan allegedly sexually assaulting her.
Yeah. And they say in the ruling too, that we make no judgment about the content of the book.
Yep.
In the ruling.
That's right. Right. Even as they come out and say, and it's like, it's not just her. There are all of these stories that you're hearing now of book reviewers being like, Meta was hounding us. The Washington Post book reviewer described the Meta comms people hounding him for days in a preemptive, quote, counter assault. Before the book even came out, like peppering him with questions. Are you going to review it? What are you going to say about it? He wrote, in my 27 years of reviewing and editing newspaper book sections, no company has ever done this with me. When one of the world's most powerful media companies tries to snuff out a book, it's time to pull out all the stops. So the book reviewers are panicking about Meta, which is concerning.
Well, as you said, it's not working. Careless People rocketed to the top of the Amazon bestseller list after Meta pulled this. It seems like they might have really fucked themselves with this stuff.
This might honestly be the biggest Streisand effect of all time. Like, I wish to God that Meta had tried to suppress my book. Like, you can get these kind of sales. So there's a little independent bookstore like right by my house, and I happened to walk by there the day the book came out, or maybe it was the day after, but it was before the injunction or the arbitration happened.
Yeah.
And they had like a big stack, and like nobody was really looking at them, and it was like, well, maybe it's not really selling that well. And I was like, okay, but I'm glad that she got it out there and it's in the public record. And then this arbitration ruling hit, and I went by the bookstore the next day because I was like, I should get a physical copy. And they were like, not only are we sold out, because I couldn't find it. I was like, oh, they put it in the back because nobody was buying it. They were like, we're sold out and we're on deep back order.
Wow.
It'll be weeks before we can get enough copies. They were like,
so
the demand has
awesome.
been crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it has not worked for it, which tells you something about the company and about the recklessness that they engage in, which people who have been like reporting on the company have been trying to warn us about for years. Sarah Wynn-Williams is trying to warn us about in this book. And it is wild to see that just they come out swinging and they're not really thinking about the consequences, apparently.
And I'm wondering about the freak out, and I mean it is bad timing for them because they have some court cases.
They have a big FTC case that said Mark Zuckerberg is getting interviewed for deposed for 7 hours this week over this FTC case to maybe break up Meta.
You think they'll have some questions from the book in that deposition?
They have to get a copy first.
Well, let's get to the allegations that Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want you to hear. We've both read the book now, and in addition to 1,000 little stories about the selfishness and carelessness of Mark and Sheryl Sandberg and Joel Kaplan, there are a handful of major allegations in the book about sexual harassment, enabling genocide in Myanmar, and offering the Chinese Communist Party tailored surveillance tools to spy and crack down on dissidents that we should share. We talked a little bit about China last week after the Washington Post reported on a complaint Sarah filed with the SEC. That said, we want to read you all an excerpt from the book where Sarah begins to understand the extent that Facebook was willing to appease the Chinese Communist Party.
Yes, let me pull that up. So we're, as you said, because she cannot be here, but we have, 300 pages of Sarah Wynn-Williams. We're just going to read from the book directly. And this is kind of a dream for me. Reading out loud on a microphone is like, that's just so fun to me. Okay. Facebook would build facial recognition, photo targeting, and other moderation tools to facilitate Chinese censorship. This is Sarah Wynn-Williams discovering documents about Facebook's big plan to get into China. Under direction from Mark, Facebook assembled a large team, including some of its most senior and respected engineers, to work up what the Chinese Communist Party wanted. Always a great sign. They start building new censorship tools for Honey, who's a private equity company, to use to scour through people's messages and posts, converting everything to simplified Chinese. I find detailed content moderation and censorship tools. There would be an emergency switch to block any specific region in China, like Xinjiang, where the Uyghurs are, from interacting with Chinese and non-Chinese users. Also, an extreme emergency content switch to remove viral content originating inside or outside China. Quote, during times of potential unrest, including significant anniversaries, like the June 4th anniversary of Tiananmen Square, the censorship tools would automatically examine any content with more than 10,000 views by Chinese users. Once this virality counter got built, the documents say that Facebook deployed it in Hong Kong and Taiwan, where it's been running on every post. And then there's
the key phrase there is inside or outside
not
China.
Even, they're just deploying it outside China just as a little gimme, just as a little, here you go, Xi Jinping, here's a little taste. Why don't you deploy Chinese censorship outside of China's borders?
So like if there are Chinese dissidents in the United States?
It's a great question. I mean, as we discussed last week, they deleted the Facebook page of a Chinese dissident in the United States on behalf of Beijing. As I read through page after page, I see the sort of briefings that would warm the hearts of every government I work with. We never share this type of information, and believe me, they've asked, but here are detailed explanations of precisely how the technology functions, algorithms and photo tagging and facial recognition, all the secrets of the trade that I thought would never be revealed to anyone outside Facebook. Facebook is providing engineers to demonstrate, offering ideas on how to adapt the settings to meet the Chinese government's needs. It's white glove service for the CCP. The ugly fact is that these are many of the things Facebook has said are simply impossible when Congress and its own government has asked on content, data sharing, privacy, censorship, and encryption, and yet its leadership are handing them all to China on a silver platter. So things that they told the US government are physically impossible for us to do, they are proactively doing for the Chinese government.
White glove service for the CCP
It's a good
was
line.
a great line.
It's a good line.
And really sort of captures what this was. Because, you know, you're reading in Sarah's voice there, her job was to work with governments all over the world.
Right.
And governments all over the world probably wanted some of this, some of them.
Yeah, right.
And it was always a no. But Mark wanted to get into China so badly that maybe one of the most repressive governments was willing to give all these surveillance tools to it.
Right. Proactively, to volunteer it. Yes. And I think this is one of those things where it's not just the crime, it's the cover-up. Like, you expect Meta to sell out its users. We kind of know that was always built into the platform. But they are selling out the U.S. government, which regulates them, ostensibly, in theory, by telling them, we can't do these things that you're asking us to do, these ways that our platform is destabilizing the U.S. But then, actually, it turns out that they can't. It turns out they've been lying to the U.S. government and regulators, according to the book.
Offline is brought to you by Green Chef. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for clean eating, delivering pre-portioned and prepped quality whole foods with limited processed ingredients. Green Chef sends organic, fresh produce, responsibly sourced proteins, and chef-designed recipes in every box for satisfying, nourishing, and convenient meals that make it easy to stick to a clean eating routine. This year, ditch the fads and create healthier eating habits that last with real clean foods. Green Chef makes it easy with recipes curated for a variety of lifestyles and dietary needs. With pre-made sauces and pre-portioned ingredients, there's less prep and less mess, and more time to savor delicious restaurant-quality meals. Stay on track even on your busiest days with salads ready in 5 minutes or less, ready-to-blend smoothies, and grab-and-go protein-packed breakfasts. Green Chef can even help you keep feeling energized and curb cravings with a specially curated hydration bundle. So I've been trying this Green Chef and Mediterranean shrimp bowls. You get some jasmine rice, broccoli, feta, olives, 25 minutes to prepare. I'm not like, I don't do a lot of cooking, but you try Green Chef. It's really easy. Everything, ingredients are all fresh. It tastes delicious. So it's really great. Thrive all year with clean, easy meals from Green Chef. Go to greenchef.com/offline-free and use code offline-free to get started with free salads for 2 months plus 50% off your first box. That's greenchef.com/offline-free, code offline-free. Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. Offline is brought to you by 3-Day Blinds. Talk about how Lovett came up with the idea to have 3-Day blinds installed in your office. That's not what happened.
That's not how it went.
Lovett might have been the one that...
Fact check, false.
That demanded there were 3-day blinds in our office. But
I'm the one who's been blinded by the sunlight in our office.
That's right. It's more of a Tommy thing. And you know what?
Help me. 3-day blinds.
We're pretty excited.
I'm very excited.
We are very excited for the we already have 3-day blinds in other parts of the office. Some reason in our office we didn't have any.
Yeah.
But where we do have them in the office, they look fantastic.
They work great.
And they work really great. There's a better way to buy blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery, and it's called 3-Day Blinds. They are the leading manufacturer of high-quality custom window treatments in the U.S. And right now, if you use our URL, 3dayblinds.com/offline, they're running a buy one, get one 50% off deal. We can shop for almost anything at home. Why not shop for blinds at home too? 3-Day Blinds has local, professionally trained design consultants who have an average of 10 plus years of experience that provide expert guidance on the right blinds for you in the comfort of your home. Just set up an appointment and you'll get a free, no obligation quote the same day. Not very handy? Like me? DIY projects can be fun, but measuring and installing blinds can be a big challenge.
No way. No chance I could install blinds
Could
myself.
you imagine?
No. You messed that up. No, I need a professional. I need someone from 3-Day Blinds to do this.
There is zero chance I'm installing blinds. The expert team at 3-Day Blinds handles all the heavy lifting. They design, measure, and install so you can sit back, relax, and leave it to the pros. In addition to having 3-Day Blinds at the office, I've had them installed in my home before, and they do a great job. The design consultant comes out. They're great. They tell you what you need. They install them. You don't have to worry about it. Right now, get quality window treatments that fit your budget with 3-Day Blinds. Head to 3dayblinds.com/offline for their buy one, get one 50% off deal on custom blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery. For a free, no charge, no obligation consultation, just head to 3dayblinds.com/offline. One last time, that's buy one, get one 50% off when you head to the number 3dayblinds.com/offline. Question for you that I never really figured out. Why didn't they ultimately not end up in China, Facebook?
I mean, I think we have to read between the lines a little bit, but the implication that I got is that just China never wanted a major American-owned social media platform in their country. They wanted a Chinese-based company. I mean, this was always their thing, even when they did work with American internet companies, is you have to have a headquarters here and you have to work with Chinese companies. And like, if they could just have a Chinese company that was based entirely in China and that they had all of their usual tools of leverage and control over, why wouldn't they prefer that? And also, why wouldn't they prefer to have that homegrown for economic reasons too?
So as horny as Mark was for the CCP, they ultimately it was unrequited.
I honestly think that they were playing him from the beginning.
Interesting.
And it's like they talk about how Instagram was in China early on, like over a while ago, like a very stripped down version of Instagram. And I think this was always just a like Xi Jinping showing a little ankle so that Mark Zuckerberg would hand over the crown jewels. This metaphor is really getting away from me. But then always planning to kick them out. And you see Sarah Wynn-Williams and other people at Facebook, according to her accounts, like trying to tell the executives that and trying to say like, this is never going to happen. And we're creating all of this risk for ourselves for nothing, but it's his white whale.
Let's talk about the allegations concerning Myanmar. So we all know that Facebook was accused by the UN of abetting a genocide in Myanmar.
Right.
We've talked about it a few times on this show.
Yep.
But now, thanks to Sarah, we know what was happening inside Facebook as this violence unfolded. Max, you highlighted an example that shows just how indifferent Facebook's leadership was to what was happening in Myanmar. Can you read that one?
Yeah, so this is just, we won't get into the whole everything that happened. It's just kind of a revealing moment. This is an anecdote that is about Facebook systems actively promoting false claims that have led to race baiting and led to a bunch of riots and violence in Myanmar. I get an email telling me the junta wants us to remove these posts because they're causing real-world violence. Riots are ongoing. Buddhist mobs are attacking Muslim shops. People are dying. The posts seem like a clear violation of our standards. But the content operations team, which is based in Dublin, doesn't want to take the post down. The case officer tells me she doesn't think they violate our rules, but she can't find anyone who speaks Burmese, and Google Translate doesn't do Burmese, so she can't say for sure. I pull in someone more senior, and he reaches out to that same contractor they'd hired a few months before, a Burmese guy based in Dublin, their one moderator for Burmese content, to review the material. 5 hours passed. How long do you think this will take, I ask? There are riots in the streets over this. I really need these posts to come down. Unfortunately, no idea, the senior guy responds. He's offline. I have pinged him on FB and hope he sees it when he gets back to me. This is, again, people are dying as this is happening. Do you have a contact phone number for him? I write. This is an emergency. The senior guy calls him. The Burmese contractor is at a restaurant, and I'm told he'll go home and should have access to a PC in 15 minutes. He'll comb through the posts and try to see what is being said and if we want action on it or not. Nearly 2 hours pass, and the senior guy confesses contractor does not have his work laptop, and he himself is on the road, but he'll get to it when he gets home later. I feel both responsible and completely impotent. When will you be in a position to do this? We really need to move quickly. And then, of course, nothing happens for many hours until the government finally just blocks Facebook. This cannot be the system Facebook relies on when people are dying. If posts are causing riots in the streets, we can't be depending on some random contractor in Ireland who's out to dinner and can't find his laptop. But they did, and they continued to because they didn't care.
Well, I was going to say, I'm glad we read that one after the China passage, because the contrast with like they were willing to hand over all of their trade secrets and build new surveillance tools.
There's no principle
so the Chinese Communist Party could take down a post at a moment's notice anywhere in the world that was critical of them. But there's a genocide unfolding in Myanmar, and they've just got one guy in Dublin who's a contractor who speaks Burmese, who was like out to dinner and didn't bring his laptop.
And multiple executives at the company are like, hey, we're causing multiple deaths of people in Myanmar, and just nobody can be fucking fussed to do anything about it. And she talks about, this was an incident in 2014, she talks about this continuing and being the status quo for years. And I appreciated knowing, even though it was not like super surprising, but knowing just that everybody in the company was completely aware of this. And as you say, it wasn't a priority. They didn't care, so they chose not to act. And the only reason was that it would have taken up a little bit of their time. And they just, why do they care? Just people in Myanmar.
Right. Another allegation we should talk about is Facebook targeting and manipulating the emotions of teenage girls. So in April of 2017, a confidential document from Facebook leaked to the Australian press that claimed the company was offering advertisers the opportunity to target 13 to 17-year-olds during moments of psychological vulnerability when they feel, quote, worthless, insecure, stressed, defeated, anxious, stupid, useless, or like a failure, end quote. Offering advertisers to target these young girls with weight loss or beauty ads during their most vulnerable moments. Wild. Again,
I know.
Documents.
Really horrifying.
There is a whole presentation that leaks that you can. So this is not just like
13 to 17-year-old girls targeting at moments of insecurity to sell them stuff.
At the time, Facebook claimed that they did not actually offer these tools and that this deck was intended to, quote, help marketers understand how people express themselves on Facebook. We now know from Sarah Wynn-Williams that wasn't exactly the truth.
Right.
Max, can you read the section you highlighted?
Yes. So cut to at a big emergency meeting with a bunch of executives where they're talking about what to do about this. The privacy staffer explains that teams do this type of customized work targeting insecurities for other advertisers, and there are presentations for other clients specifically targeting teens. We discussed the possibility that this news might lead to investigations by state attorney generals or the Federal Trade Commission because it might become public that Facebook commercializes and exploits Facebook youngest users. To me, this type of surveillance and monetization of young teens' sense of worthlessness feels like a concrete step toward the dystopian future Facebook's critics had long warned of. A statement is quickly drafted, and the response team debates whether Facebook can include the line, quote, we take this very seriously and are taking every effort to remedy this situation, end quote, since in fact this is apparently just normal business practice. A comm staffer points out what should be obvious, that we can't say we're taking efforts to remedy it if we're not. This prompts other team members to confirm his take, revealing other examples they know of. Facebook targets young mothers based on their emotional states, targets racial and ethnic groups. Facebook does work for a beauty product company, tracking when 13 to 17-year-old girls delete selfies so it could serve a beauty ad to them in that moment. And then she talks about how people in the meeting are horrified. The weird thing is that the rest of our Facebook coworkers seem unbothered by this. I'm still struggling to get a better picture of what we're dealing with here. So I ask for an independent audit by a third party to understand everything that Facebook has done like this around the world, targeting vulnerable people, so I can try to stop it. Who has this information? How many advertisers has it been shared with? The team is not enthusiastic. And then she talks about other executives nix it. They say no paper trail, no investigation. Then she talks about somebody actually dies maybe as a result of this, or it's revealed from a lawsuit. The initial statement Facebook gives the Australian journalist who discovered the targeting surveillance back in 2017 does not acknowledge that this sort of ag targeting is commonplace at Facebook. In fact, it pretends the opposite. And she goes on, despite this, Elliot Schrage, Joel Kaplan, and many of Facebook's most senior executives devise a cover-up. Facebook issues a second statement that is a flat-out lie. Quote, Facebook does not offer tools to target people based on their emotional state. The new statement is circulated to a large group of senior management who know it's a lie and approve it anyway.
Fucking wild, man.
I know. They were really, they're selling out kids. They're selling out kids.
Like, so I know some of this has been reported.
Yep.
Some of this came out with the Frances Haugen whistleblower situation.
Yeah.
So it's not a completely new revelation, but some of this is also new, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that there was a concerted cover-up, the fact that this wasn't just a like rogue salesperson who went off and did this, that this was deliberate strategy from the top. And I think that what's revealing...
In fact, at one point, I think someone from the Australia team, after they put out the statement,
they
was a
fired
lie.
her. Yep.
That Australia team called Sarah and was like, "Why are you putting out that statement?" Of course, we actually we brag about these tools to advertisers,
right?
So it's like this is part of our business that we go around selling, and so that person was mad from another perspective, which is like, you put out that statement, it's going to hurt our efforts with advertisers to sell more.
The thing that comes through here is that they do the cover up not for PR reasons, not because they want to hide the fact that they have been doing this in the past. They do the cover up because they like it. They think this is good. It's deliberate strategy. It makes them a lot of money and they want to continue doing it. And we have every reason to believe that they have. The thing that really gets me is saying they don't even want to do an internal audit among themselves to find out how commonplace it is because they don't want a paper trail. Even fucking the CIA torture program had a paper trail. That's nuts.
It's real. The idea that...
What else are they doing they don't want a paper trail of?
And I know there's been so many examples of this, but like if a 14-year-old girl deleting a selfie
Mm-hmm.
and then getting the beauty ad
I know.
is just so...
Or the weight loss ad.
Right. It's just like knowing that is when you're deleting a selfie, you're saying, I didn't look good in this probably, or there's a good chance of that.
Right.
It's fucking gross.
When you're going to your $20 million vacation house in St. Bart's that you know was built partly off of exploiting 14-year-old girls feeling bad and delivering them a weight loss ad and thinking this is good. And in fact, I want to go out of my way to do a cover up to keep getting that money. How do you do that? How do you go to that house?
You're just really excited about free speech. Just getting back to your roots and MMA, you're into some fighting and your new look.
I am so glad that he's feeling in touch with his masculinity. That's
maybe he was served some ads. Maybe he's a victim of his own. That's why he looks like this now.
What do you think his screen time numbers are?
I don't know.
I bet it's really low.
That's another thing that she says in the book is that none of the executives, or very few of the executives at Facebook, let their own kids,
of course not,
use the app.
Who knows better how dangerous it is?
Right. And it was just a very, and we've heard this at other companies and from other people too, but with Twitter and everything else. But it really tells you something. It is so telling about what social media does to kids that the people who work in social media don't let their kids on social media.
Yes. When they are speaking publicly, they're the liberation company, they're the free speech company, they're lifting all of us up. And when it's behind closed doors and among themselves, they know that they're the cigarette company. Yeah. They know it.
Today's episode is sponsored by Acorns. They say money can't buy you happiness. That might be true. But money sure can make you feel a lot of other things, like stressed, guilty, overwhelmed. That's because when you're not in control of your money can control you, Tommy. If you get too much money, you have a mental breakdown in front of the entire country in the Oval Office, take too much, allegedly, of a certain banned substance, and then start slashing government agencies.
And suddenly, you're selling cars in the driveway, in the White House driveway.
In the South Lawn.
Acorns is a financial wellness app that helps you take control of your money with simple tools that make it easy to start saving and investing for your future. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that matches you and your money goals. You don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you get started with the spare money you've got right now, even if all you've got is spare change. You can create your Acorns account and start investing in just 5 minutes. Financial wellness doesn't have to feel impossible. Acorns gives you small, simple steps to get you and your money on track. Basically, Acorns does the hard part so you can give your money a chance to grow. Ready to take control of your money? Sign up now and join the over 14 million all-time customers who've already saved and invested over $25 billion with Acorns. Head to acorns.com/offline or download the Acorns app to get started. Paid non-client endorsement compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 1 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors LLC and SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/offline. Offline is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Do you like keeping your money where you can see it? Unfortunately, traditional big wireless carriers seem to like keeping your money too. If you're fed up with crazy high wireless bills, bogus fees, and free perks that actually cost more in the long run, it might be time to switch to Mint Mobile. We have a few Crooked staffers who ditched their plans with the big wireless carriers and switched to Mint Mobile. One of them said they saved close to $40 per month after making the switch. Say bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/offline. That's mintmobile.com/offline. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5GB plan required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. So we should also finally talk about the mistreatment that Sarah experiences at Facebook. I think we talked last week about the weird Cheryl stuff.
We did. Yes,
we did,
right?
And
I finally read it, and boy, it is so much weirder than you think it is from the media write-ups.
Oh, yeah. Just read the whole thing. She also details sexual harassment and mistreatment by her superior, Joel Kaplan, former Bush administration official who now serves as president of global affairs at Meta. There are genuinely too many examples of this to talk about all of them right now, but we want to zero in on one specific incident. The performance review that Joel forces Sarah to take after she was on maternity leave, which she spent most of hospitalized. This was just galling to
It's
me.
really galling. I returned to work in August 2016. My first day back, Joel Kaplan decides to do a performance review. As he says, it's performance review season. A quick Google search confirms my suspicion that you are not supposed to be given a performance review of your maternity leave. In fact, I understand that pushing someone to work during their maternity leave is against the law. Nevertheless, quote, "You weren't responsive enough," he says. "In my defense, I was in a coma for some of it. It's not just me, Sarah. Some of your other colleagues found it challenging to engage with you." And then she says, "I mean, I was in a hospital, in a coma, and near death, but I accept that this did make it hard to engage with me at times," end quote. Irrespective, this leads him to conclude that there were, quote, "issues limiting my effectiveness." And both he and my peers say I was, quote, "difficult to work with during this period." Sadly, he notes that he is unable to put a formal performance review in the system to accompany this feedback because I was out of the system for most of the performance cycle, again, because she was in a coma. But he wants me to know that if he could, it would be bad.
I mean, and like,
And
it's
the
a
context
horrifying
is
story.
She almost died.
She almost dies, like, right during and then after childbirth.
Yes.
And then there's a lot of complications.
Right.
She's in a coma.
She's working for most of it.
And then when she wakes up from the coma, obviously there's some more.
Right.
Like, she's still in the hospital. She's
Yeah.
out for a long time.
Right.
And then comes in and gets this review. I'm glad we chose this one too, because there's some sexual harassment allegations as well, and we talked about the Cheryl thing.
Right.
But I think it's important to realize the portrait she paints of Facebook leadership, and this is true of Mark, of Joel, of Sarah, of a lot of them, is just like they are so relentless about work.
Yeah.
And the idea of like the work-life balance is just it's completely out the window.
Right.
They are just ruthless.
Yeah. I think it's the meanness and the callousness and the cruelty that gets me, not just because, hey, it seems like the C-suite of Facebook is a tough place to work and I wouldn't want to work there. So as you say, it's a tough day for my job prospects there. But if they are willing to treat the people who they see every day and who they go on trips with and who they play Settlers of Catan with at weird work trips to Jakarta, like if they're willing to treat these people that cruelly and heartlessly, how are they going to treat the rest of us? Not well.
It is the move fast, break things.
Yes.
Hardcore.
Right.
This is Elon and Twitter. This is Uber. This is
it's all part of the greater good. If we're making more money, we're producing more good in the world. So actually, you're the bad person for almost dying on maternity leave.
Well, and it's also like we're changing the world here, and we're building these things that are going to change humanity and stuff like that. And so, we're gonna break a few eggs, right?
So,
that's sort of the
right.
The,
you have to be willing, and maybe one of the eggs is your life.
Right. But I will say that in all the pushback, right? So there's all these former Facebook employees who have now put out statements that all sound like they're the same statement.
Yes, right. It's very conspicuous.
Very conspicuous.
Copy-paste.
But it's like, I know some of these people too that have put out statements, and I'm just, it's very like it's focused on Joel mostly. And I don't know if that's just Cheryl's gone,
right?
Mark's Mark,
right?
And Joel is now the sort of the top. But it's a lot of, that's not the Joel I know. Joel's been a mentor to me.
Right.
And it's like, that doesn't have to be
right.
Those don't have to be lies either,
Sure.
right? Like people are different, and some people could have great experiences with Joel Kaplan.
Sure, yeah.
It doesn't mean that this is not true, and that he can't be an absolute shit to a lot of other people.
Well, and it's also,
or especially people who challenge him, like Sarah clearly did.
Well, I mean, Meta's own comms around this have explicitly said that they fired her in part for bringing these allegations against him. Right. Now, the way that they have couched it is they said that it was toxic behavior and unfounded allegations, and we did an investigation and we decided that he was innocent. But okay, that's great. That's great that you decided that he was innocent of sexual harassment. Why is that a reason to fire her? And I think that this all speaks to an extreme protectiveness around him, which I think is partly because he is their lifeline to the Trump administration.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he is the Republican Trump operative within Meta. That's part of their deal, is that he gets free reign over policy and that Trump leaves them alone or maybe does them some favors, like at least pretending to ban TikTok. And I think that there is probably a legitimate fear within Meta that if Joel Kaplan left for some reason because there was enough of a movement against him within the company, because these instances are never isolated, that would be really, really harmful for their relationship with Trump and therefore maybe the survival of the company.
Yeah, that's true. And he is he's a Bush era Republican, but he's also, in the book she writes that he was like sitting behind Kavanaugh during Kavanaugh's hearings, and then like his wife threw a big, party for Kavanaugh after he was confirmed.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's a very like Bush era Republican who has like drifted towards MAGA and is now the MAGA connection.
Right.
Although now I guess Mark's standing at the fucking inaugural behind Trump. So
can I actually give you another example of their MAGA Trump connection? So this is a quick excerpt from the book. This is right after the 2016 election.
Mm-hmm.
And the setup to this is that, according to Sarah Wynn-Williams, a number of the company's own executives concluded that Facebook actively elected Trump in the election, not just like a passive conduit, but like the platform and the decision they made got him into office. And there's this scene she recounts that's really stunning. On this long international flight, all the executives gathered around Zuckerberg laying out the case to him. And I won't go into because it's quite long, but it's incredibly persuasive. But the part I want to read is Zuckerberg's response to all of this.
Because at first he's like, by the way, he's like, fuck, even internally, he's like, we didn't elect Trump. These people don't know what they're talking about. This is bullshit. And I don't believe it.
Yeah.
And so he does that sort of thing.
Right.
Which he kind of did publicly at first.
That was, yes, publicly it was like.
And then they realize they have to lay out the truth to him. And so they do this on this flight.
Thank you. Yes. Mark quietly takes it all in. At first, he's skeptical and pushing back, but that gradually turns into curiosity. He starts to ask questions, trying to understand the mechanics of it all. He doesn't seem upset that the platform would be used this way, not in the slightest. If anything, there's admiration for the ingenuity. Like, these tools were there all the time for anyone to use this way. How smart that they figured it out. When all this was explained to Cheryl at a later business operations meeting, once she grasped what Trump's campaign did, her immediate response was not horror, but that it was brilliant and innovative. And do you think we might have a shot at hiring Trump's Facebook guy, Brad Parscale, to come work at Facebook?
That was amazing.
No one said anything, and after an awkward moment, Chase she shifted gears. Of course, that's silly. He can have his pick of jobs right now. A pause, but maybe there are others from the Trump campaign who we could bring inside Facebook.
That part was fucking
I know.
wild.
I know. It really, and honestly, it completely tracks. It completely tracks for me that they saw that Facebook could swing elections and they thought, hey, maybe this is useful. Maybe this has some business applications for us.
And there's a part later that, again, you should all get the book and read it. There's a part later where Mark starts flirting with the idea of maybe him running for president.
Yep.
And sets up when he went to Iowa and all that kind of stuff. And Sarah makes the point that like he knows these tools worked.
What do you think
he owns the platform and he's like,
Right.
Wouldn't it be interesting if I could control the media and in my
own and maybe elections.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's another conclusion that he seems to draw from this. I am really surprised that this has not gotten more attention. This, to me, is one of the most explosive parts of the book, is that Sarah Wynn-Williams lays out in this series of stories that kind of recur over and over throughout the book. That's this set of anecdotes mapping out what certainly reads like a concerted, years-long global campaign by Meta to covertly tip the platform in favor of certain politicians, governments, and leaders in exchange for favorable regulations and laws. I have a few snips to read from that because I found this to be very scary. And this to me was totally new. When we start to run into politicians who put up roadblocks to our expansion, the growth team is quick to suggest that we juice the algorithm to help them bolster their Facebook presence. The way they put that, quote, let's dial up the algorithm to give politicians some love. When I say that to me, I always say no, believing it's best for us in the long term to stay neutral. I don't know what the other people on the policy team tell them, but that the growth team mentality, move fast and break things. Those boys in the office who wanted to know what we stand for. This is what we stand for, growth more. I got another one. It comes up over and over and over again.
Got to juice the algorithm.
Just a few weeks over, he takes over his predecessor's job. Joel Kaplan starts hiring a political sales team to push politicians here and abroad into becoming advertisers. The idea is if politicians depend on Facebook to win elections, they will be less likely to do anything that will harm Facebook. If Facebook is the goose that lays the golden eggs, no one wants to kill the goose, get them hooked on those golden eggs. And then she talks about this entire scheme that Joel Kaplan had to start, quote unquote, PACs abroad to pay politicians that are friendly to Facebook. And she has to say that's bribery and illegal. Please don't do that. And the idea apparently never goes anywhere, but tells you something about their mindset. Okay,
by the way, this did not, at least for a while, did not work with Donald Trump since Facebook did help him in the election, and then he wanted to put Mark Zuckerberg in jail. So,
but they, I would say, appear to be trying it again.
Yeah.
This is another example of this. Mark opens this meeting by talking admiringly about what he calls street fighter tactics that Uber is employing against politicians around the world and how successful they've been. Thought there was a general agreement that Facebook didn't use these underhand tactics, and we certainly did admire them. And then she details things like Uber creating strikes, protests, forcing authorities to the table, sponsoring politicians' kids and their soccer leagues as a way to give them bribes. It's dirty. But what becomes clear the more Mark speaks is that not only does he not judge what Uber is doing, he's judging us for not doing it. Mark believes Facebook could have a lot more leverage with politicians than Uber ever could, and we're failing him by not using these tactics. He launches into a spiel about Emperor Augustus, his favorite emperor, everybody's got to have a favorite emperor, who led the transformation of Rome from a republic to an empire. He talks about, quote, offense. He wants to mobilize Facebook users. He wants pro-Facebook activists. He wants protests. And then he talks about defense against adversaries. And Sarah Wynn-Williams says, when you say adversary, what do you mean? I raise my hand and ask tentatively, a little concerned. And he answers, anyone who opposes us is an adversary. Cool.
Good times.
Good times. Oh, and then she also talks about a board meeting where someone says that Facebook should tilt the platform in favor of the German and French far right.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're going to be in power at one point.
Yeah. Little preview of what we're going to get from what we just got from Elon Musk.
That's true. Right. Yeah. But I think Meta would probably be more effective at it.
Yeah.
Scarily.
So that's the book.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like we read a lot, but you know what?
There's so much more. So much more in there.
Go get Careless, people.
Yes.
Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want you to read it.
If you can find it.
You should read it.
Yep.
And hopefully at some point Sarah can come on if this gag order is lifted and tell us more, because I imagine she has a lot more that she didn't even get to put in the book. So.
Or, you know what? Maybe I'll travel to a country without an extradition treaty and interview her there.
Perfect.
Interview her in Venezuela.
Perfect. Oh, man. All right. Some quick housekeeping. You can now listen to the first 2 episodes of Shadow Kingdom, God's Banker, wherever you get your podcast. This is our brand new show about how the Vatican's top money man, who was found dead in 1982, was entangled in a vast money laundering operation that put him in the crosshairs of the Sicilian Mafia, a secretive far-right Masonic lodge, and the Catholic Church itself. 40 years later, journalist Niccolo Mainoni gets a tip about the death that changes everything. Follow him as he unravels a web of power, crime, and conspiracy to answer the question, who really killed God's banker? Also, check out the latest Inside 2025, where Dan and Alyssa Mastromonaco break down what a government shutdown actually is, who's affected, the political fallout, and what really went down behind the scenes. Get access to this exclusive series and more by heading to crooked.com/friends to subscribe.